Hope you're keeping yourselves well and you're surviving still in social distancing and isolation. As you can see, I finally decided to shave my head and it was a bad idea. So I hope if you've had a haircut at home, homemade, it's gone better than mine. Now today's lesson is going to be a little bit different. We're going to be taking a look at the 16 mark answers that you did before Easter. We are, however, going to start it with a quick revision quiz as always. Now, if you're able to, play my video on a tablet, an iPad, or a phone, or even a television if you can. And then you've got this document which has been shared with you in Google Classroom for you to do your work directly in. If, however, you're not able to do that, don't worry, you can still do your work on paper. If you've got a printer, just print out this document, lesson 6, and you can write it straight in, or even just do it on lined paper and just make notes as you go in as much detail as you can. Then when your work's finished, you can follow the instructions to take a photograph of it and submit that to Google Classroom as well. Okay? Brilliant. So if we're going to start with that starter quiz, what I'd like you to do is, if you're doing it in the document, in those grey boxes or on your piece of paper, pause the video now and answer those 12 questions completely from memory. Pause the video now. Fantastic, let's go through the answers then. So, number 1. The event where the crown was given to William was the submission of the Earls at Berkhamsted. It's the lesson that you completed on Monday. 2, I asked for 3 of the Anglo-Saxons who were at the submission of the Earls. You could have had Archbishop Stigand, you could have had Archbishop Ealdred, you could have had Edwin, Morcar, or Edgar the Atheling. They all swore to be loyal to William when they gave him the crown at that submission. 3, after the Battle of Hastings, William secured his supply route in Normandy, so he kept control of the south of England. Then he started his march to London. But you might remember he didn't march there in a straight line. He committed further atrocities and then he swooped around the north to try and cut off London before being met at Berkhamsted. Number 4 is the 1943 Tehran Conference. 5 is the 1945 Yalta Conference. And 6 was also in 1945, the Potsdam Conference, where it was finally decided how Germany would be split into the 4 zones. 7, Edward Jenner developed the first effective vaccine when he used cowpox to vaccinate people from smallpox. 8 is what I've just said there, cowpox to vaccinate against smallpox. 9, before Edward Jenner, the process was inoculation. And what they would do is they would take the pus out of somebody's smallpox wound, they would put it into a healthy person, and they would then be inoculated from smallpox. But you might remember that had a lot of drawbacks. It was very, very expensive. It was also risky because some people developed full smallpox as well. Some people even died from inoculation. 10 is the Social Democrat Party, also known as the SDP, one of the moderate political parties in Germany. 7 is 1923 to 1929. Starting in 1923 when Gustav Stresemann became Chancellor, ending in 1929 because it was the year Stresemann died and the year of the Wall Street crash causing the Great Depression. Then number 12 was a bit of a challenging one. You could have had Erich Mendelssohn, who was an architect. You could have had Otto Dix, who was an artist. And you could have had Fritz Lang, who was a man who directed Metropolis. Please make sure you have self-checked and corrected those answers. If you're doing it on the computer, then make sure in green you've typed in the correct answer so you've remembered, so you've checked in if you've forgotten something. Pause the video now and fill in any question you haven't answered yet. Fantastic. So, everything else in today's lesson is going to go through this document here. I'm going to talk you through some things. I'm going to get you to do some bits independently and some bits with me. So what I'd like you to do is just scroll down first to step 3. Now the answer you're going to be redrafting and recapping today is about the Battle of Hastings, and because it's been about 4 weeks since you've had that first proper lesson on it, I'd like you to first just click that link there. It'll take you to a 6-minute YouTube video which will just recap the story of the Battle of Hastings if you've forgotten. Please pause my video now, Go watch that one on YouTube, then come back to this one when you've done it. Brilliant. Excellent. So, moving now to step 4 after you've watched that recap. Now, the question that you answered before Easter was this. The main reason for William's victory in the Battle of Hastings was the superior strength of his military. How far do you agree? Say that one more time. The main reason for William's victory in the Battle of Hastings was the superior strength of his military. How far do you agree? Now, all your teachers have been sending me emails letting me know how you got on for this 16-mark question to help me prepare for this feedback lesson. And can I just say, every single teacher who's got in touch with me has been very, very impressed. This whole topic you've been learning through remote learning, and the knowledge in your answers was really very good. It's very clear that a lot of you are putting in a lot of effort to understand these parts of history, even remotely at home. In terms of understanding and subject knowledge, it was really clear that just about every answer fully understood that. We were also really, really impressed by how many people are starting to bring balance to their paragraphs. There's lots of people not only arguing and explaining in clear RQ sentences, but also bringing in limitations to show both sides of the argument, which is going to be really, really helpful in allowing you to achieve the higher levels where you do need that sort of balance. Now, even though your answers were so good, there are still a few areas to develop. So what we're going to do now is we're going to work through a few example paragraphs. We're going to see what's really good about those. We're going to analyse them a little bit. Then you're going to go back to lesson 4 on Google Classroom and improve your own answer in green. So we're going to start with this paragraph here. You can see it in yellow. Now what this paragraph has is... what this paragraph is just one example, just one of the 3 topic paragraphs. And we're only going to go through one because the structure is absolutely the same in all of them. We're going to analyse the structure of this paragraph. Then, like I say, you're going to use what we analysed to improve your own. So we're just going to start by reading it through first. There is a lot of evidence to suggest that William won the Battle of Hastings due to his superior tactics. When William first landed on the shores of England, he decided to commit atrocities in Wessex in order to lure Harold and the Anglo-Saxon Fyrd out of the fortified walls of London. Also, during the battle, William was struggling to break through the Anglo-Saxon shield wall until William used his feigned retreat strategy. This involved the Norman cavalry turning around and pretending to run away, causing the Anglo-Saxon shield wall to break up when it chased the Normans down Coldback Hill. Therefore, William's superior tactics helped him to win the Battle of Hastings because his methods created weaknesses in the Anglo-Saxon defences, which his superior army were able to exploit. However, not all of William's tactics were effective in helping him win the battle. His use of the cavalry charge at the start of the battle failed because of the steepness of Coldback Hill, meant the horses couldn't run at full pace. Now, the next part of the paragraph, there are 2 options. There are 2 options because your RAs will be different, or can be different, depending on what your opinion is. Now, the first RA I'm going to read on the left is if you think that this paragraph is discussing the main reason. If you think that William's superior tactics was the main reason why he won, then your RA would look something like this. This proves that William's tactics were the main reason why he won the Battle of Hastings because his decisions were the decisive factors which allowed him to overpower the Anglo-Saxons. Now, if you don't think this is the main reason, if you think luck or the superior strength of his military was the main reason, if you don't think this paragraph is the main reason why William won, then your RA would look something like this one on the right. This proves that William's tactics were not the main reason why he won, because he would not have been able to do the feigned retreat if he didn't have the superior speed of the cavalry, proving that the strength of his army was the main reason why he won. So what you've got there is an excellent top-level 7, 8 or 9 style topic paragraph. And lots of people wrote paragraphs that were really, really close to this, which is great. Now what I'd like you to do now is if you take a look at the grey to the left of each section, so you've got the grey for TS, the grey for SK, RQ, limits and RA. What I'd like you to do now is delete where it says write your answer here, and then write in that box what makes that a really good answer. So in that TS there, I'd like you to write what makes that a really good topic sentence. Then once you've done that, below, I'd like you to write what makes that really good SK, what makes that a really good RQ, what makes it a really good limits, and then what makes it a really good RA at the bottom. I'd like you to now pause this video. I'd like you to read that information again and type in what makes those sections of the paragraph really good. Pause the video and do that now. Fantastic. Right. I'd now like you to change your font to green, and I'd like you to now, in green, add the things I'm discussing as I read through it. I'd like you to keep what you've got there, because when I read your work, or your teacher reads your work, we're going to want to see why you thought that was good. But in green, I would like you to now also add the ideas which I'm going to talk you through. Okay, so I'm just going to change my font to green. Brilliant. Now, the thing that makes this topic sentence really good, there's two things really. The first one being, is it clearly sets out what the topic paragraph is about. It's really clear that the rest of this paragraph is all going to be about the superior tactics of William helping him win. The second reason why it's really, really good is that it also starts to give you an impression of how strong that topic is. Where it says there is a lot of evidence, it's making really, really clear to the reader what the argument of the writer is. And if you can do that in your topic sentence, it's going to really help you bring balance to your answer and get a top level answer. So the other reason why it's good is it clearly sets out the strength of argument, for the topic in the paragraph. And that's why that's a really top level history topic sentence. Now the subject knowledge below is excellent as well. What's good about this subject knowledge here is a few different things. Firstly, it's really good that there's lots of really specific and precise details. Now, what we're thinking about when we're thinking about specific and precise details is the sort of information you can see on a knowledge organiser. So it's things like names, dates, keywords, and facts. The things we ask you to practice and memorise when you do the revision tasks from your knowledge organiser. Now, when you go and improve your own answer later, I'm going to share with you a knowledge organiser for this to help you with that. So when I say key details, keywords and facts, I'm talking about the things like the fjord. I'm not just saying the word Anglo-Saxon army, I'm saying Anglo-Saxon fjord, because that's better vocabulary, it's more precise to what we're talking about. I've also got vocabulary in there like fortified, it's good high-level specific detail. I've also got the key term feigned retreat. I'm not just saying the Normans pretended to run away, I'm saying they used the feigned retreat strategy. I've also been precise when I've said Coldbeck Hill. I've not said the Anglo-Saxons were on the top of a hill, I'm saying they were on the top of Coldbeck Hill. I've been as specific and precise as possible. Now the next part of the answer is that RQ, where you're explaining why that subject knowledge, why all that information you've just put down there, caused William to win the Battle of Hastings. Now the advice is always the same in history. The best way to do that is to use words from the question and the word because. So in this question, that starter is going to be something like, therefore, William's superior tactics helped him to win the Battle of Hastings because. And then be careful, because some people in their RQ often just repeat their subject knowledge again. That's not the point of an RQ. What you're doing is you're explaining why it helped him win. I'm going to write, don't repeat SK. You're explaining why that SK helped him to win. So mine there says, therefore William's superior tactics helped him to win the Battle of Hastings because his methods created weaknesses in the Anglo-Saxon defences which his superior army were able to exploit. Now the next section is a bit that's still quite new to you and you haven't done that much practice in. It's the idea of having limitations and a balanced argument. So you're saying why maybe that factor might not be the decisive factor in helping him to win. So the key word here is however. If I can spell it properly. The key word here is however, because it indicates to your reader that you're looking at the opposing point of view now. Also, a great keyword to use here again is because it's going to help you to explain that balance in greater detail. So for example, mine says, however, not all of William's tactics were effective in helping him in the battle. His use of the cavalry charge at the start of the battle failed because the steepness of Colbeck Hill meant the horses couldn't run at full pace. So what I'm here saying is that yes, there's lots of ways why the tactics did help him win, the atrocities in Wessex and the feigned retreat, but it'd be wrong to say all of his tactics worked really, really well, because the cavalry charge at the start clearly didn't. So I've got good balance and I've explained it using because. Now finally, and this is the thing which if you can get it right, it's going to really, really help you to get the highest of grades, we're looking at your RA. Now your RA, to remind you, is where you're referring back to your argument. Whatever you said in the introduction, whether you agree or disagree with that statement, you now need to explain how this topic paragraph fits into that overall argument. And I've given you two options here because if you agree with the statement in the question, you're going to have a different RA to whether you disagree with it. So we'll start by looking at if you think this is the main reason in this paragraph why William won. So you would say, this proves that William's tactics were the main reason why he won the Battle of Hastings because his decisions were the decisive factors which allowed him to overpower the Anglo-Saxons. If it wasn't for the feigned retreat, it wouldn't have created the gaps in the shield wall and he wouldn't have won. Okay? So the reason why this is such a good RA here, and I'll just again change it to green, which remember to add this to your own if you've missed it. So if you agree with it, if this is your main idea in this topic, then you are clearly explaining why this topic is a more important factor than the others. However, if you disagree, if you still think one of the other factors are more important in this paragraph, then you need to say why the one you think is the most important is more important than the one you've discussed in this paragraph. So the way I've done that is this proves that William's tactics were not the main reason why he won, because he would not have been able to do the feigned retreat if he didn't have the superior speed of the cavalry, proving that the strength of his army was the main reason why he won. So what you're doing here is you're explaining why the factor that you think is the most important is more important than the factor in this paragraph. So you clearly explain why the factor you think is the most important is more important than the factor in this paragraph. Clearly explain why the factor you think is the most important is more important than the factor in this paragraph. And a brilliant way to do that is to try to make links or comparisons between the topics. And if you can do that, then what happens is your argument, your point of view runs all the way through your answer It's not just in the introduction, it's not just in the conclusion, it's referred to in every single paragraph, and you can get a really top level answer. Now, keep those notes open, because at the end of the lesson, you're going to go back and improve your work from before Easter. But I don't want you to do that just yet, because before you go and make those improvements, we're going to scroll down a little bit further, and we're going to complete step 5, which is looking at developed conclusions. Now, the point of a conclusion, and many of you have started to do this, which is great, is where you bring everything together. Your whole argument, everything you've been talking about in those 3 topic paragraphs, all comes sort of closed and tied neatly in a bow, really hammering home what your opinion on the question is. Now, what I'd like you to do, and what we'll start by doing together, is we're going to read 2 example conclusions. Then I'm going to ask you underneath to write why you think these 2 conclusions are really top level. So we'll start by reading example 1. Example 1 says, "To conclude, I mostly agree with the statement because it is clear that William's superior army allowed him to use decisive tactics. If William did not have the speed of the cavalry, then his feigned retreat strategy would not have worked, and he may have not won the battle." Now, example 2 comes from somebody who has a different opinion to example 1. Example 2 says, "To conclude, I mostly disagree with the statement because it is clear that William's tactics were the most important factor in allowing William to win the Battle of Hastings. If William had not used the tactic of committing atrocities in Wessex, then Harold would have stayed behind the walls of London, and the Norman army would not have been able to defeat the Anglo-Saxons in open battle." What I'd like you to do now is pause this video again, then in the grey box underneath, or on your paper if you're doing it on paper, I'd like you to write, why are these 2 examples top level? What makes them really good conclusions? Pause the video and write in black again, why you think these are really good answers. Pause the video now. Fantastic. Right, last thing then here, we're going to just fill in a few more ideas about why these are really good conclusions. Now, the first one is what just about everybody did at home, so I'm really glad to see you developing this skill. The first thing a good conclusion does is it refers directly to the statement in the question using the words agree or disagree. And the reason why a good conclusion has to do this is because this is where you're directly answering the question now. You're saying, how far do you agree? Do you really agree? Do you partially agree? Do you mostly disagree? Or do you completely disagree? And it's good to have that sort of grey area in your opinion. And get off the fence. You have to have something to say here. Don't just say, I agree and disagree. You've done all that right and you've put your argument out there. Really say, do you agree or disagree with the statement? Now, the other reason why these are good conclusions, and it's a mistake a couple of people made when I was reading your answers, is these conclusions have no new information. Some people were sprinkling in new SK details and facts in their answers, where actually that's not the point of a conclusion. Your SK details and facts should be in your topic paragraphs where you're setting out your argument. You should have nothing new in your conclusion because you're just drawing everything together. The next thing I'd like you to do is when you are drawing everything together, again, I'd like you to try to make links between the different topics and use these links to support your opinion or your argument. Now, if you take a look, for example, example 1, if you look at the second sentence, if William did not have the speed of the cavalry, then his feigned retreat strategy would not have worked and he may not have won the battle. So example 1 is saying that the speed of the cavalry allowed the feigned retreat. Therefore, the strength of the army, having the fast knights on cavalry, allowed him to do the tactic of the feigned retreat. If he didn't have the cavalry, the retreat wouldn't have worked, so therefore the strength of the army must be the decisive factor because it allowed the other one to happen. Again, if we look at example 2 says, If William had not used the tactic of committing atrocities in Wessex, then Harold would have stayed behind the walls of London, and the Norman army would not have been able to defeat the Anglo-Saxons in open battle. Example 2 is saying that without the tactic of those atrocities, then it doesn't matter how strong William's army was. He could have had the strongest army in the world. If the Anglo-Saxons were still behind the walls of London, it wouldn't have mattered. So therefore, the tactic of the atrocities in Wessex were the decisive factor. Now, even those two examples disagree. They're both top-level answers because of how thoughtfully they've constructed their argument. Fantastic. Right, now that we've recapped those brilliant models, what I would like you to do now is the final step, step 6. I'd like you to go back into Google Classroom. I'd like you to open lesson 4. What your teacher will have done is they'll have returned your 60-mark answer to you. They'll have given you some comments about what's good and what needs to be, what your next step challenges are to improve your work. And I'd like you to complete those tasks in green directly into the document, make those green for gross improvements, then click hand in again so we can see how well you've improved your work. Now, if one of your challenges is to improve the subject knowledge and to add more details, depths and specific points, the best way to help you is if you click this link here, NC 1.5, it will take you to our Battle of Hastings Knowledge Organiser. And this will have the specifics, the details that will help you just make your vocabulary or details that bit more precise. Now, as always, if you've got any questions about how to improve your work, don't hesitate to email your teacher. If you've got any problems with accessing this lesson, then again, just drop me an email and I'll do my best to help you as well. But thank you very much for your perseverance with remote learning. We really were very, very impressed by the quality of the work you've managed to do at home. And I'm looking forward to seeing how well you can improve that as well. Well done for all your hard work so far. Hopefully I'll see you again soon.